All right, happy Valentine's Day. A friend I know says happy singles awareness. Um, I wasn't gonna record anything, uh, because I kind of hate themed holiday things, but um, I got nothing. I got nothing going on today, so I've literally just been recording podcasts and reviewing analytics and texting friends all day and um enjoying it. Like a little bit irritated here and there about some stuff, but it's not really a big deal. It's just stuff in my head that I'm kind of um that I've kind of worked through for today. Just realizing, where I'm spending my energy and certain thoughts, and just trying to see like how accurate my thinking is on some things. Like, when you have a speculation about a situation and you're like, but I don't really have full evidence for something in either direction. So, I mean, today is kind of like a relationship focused day for me. Not necessarily focusing on having relationships or lack thereof. Just focusing on myself and what I want to do and what I enjoy. And I'm definitely coming back into a lot of passions. Uh, um, so yeah, but no, nothing negative though. It's just like today I'm kind of just you know pampering myself. I'm gonna have a date with myself later. If that's what we're doing, we have not yet decided. Don't worry, I haven't completely like lost it. I'm just like I'm kind of playing around, but yeah, it's kind of just like I'm saying it that way though because it's kind of like a funny way of thinking. Like I started thinking about it a little bit, and I was like, um, I don't remember which psychologist was saying like thinking about um your how do I word this? Not thinking about yourself, but thinking about um yeah, like viewing yourself as, you know, how would you treat a 5-year-old kid, like, or the 6-year-old or 5-year-old version of me, like how would I show compassion to that person or whatever. But then taking it like a step further is like, okay, like I'm not a 5 or 6-year-old kid, but I mean everyone has a relationship with themselves, right? Um and just like how do you treat yourself? Do you treat yourself well? Um do you remind yourself of things that really like it's one thing to be processing through something to like actually be working on it and thinking it through and stuff. I feel like it's another thing to kind of have that like anxious energy or like stressed out energy and just regret and worry and just thinking about things like that. Um, like if you think of it as like two people, right? Like I don't know how to like if you picture yourself as like a twin, there's a twin version of you. Um, and the version of you that is treating yourself a certain way is always wears rainbow print clothes. So your rainbow self, like how do you talk to yourself? How do you treat yourself? How do you feed yourself? Um, what do you do for yourself? Like, how are you an asset to yourself? I mean, it's so easy to focus on like, oh, like I'm not too nice to myself, I'm not too kind to myself. Like, if you were your own babysitter, not even thinking like age, like 5 or 6 year old, but if you're thinking like, if you were your own babysitter as an adult, say if adults, even competent adults needed a babysitter. Um, I mean, I babysat people when they were on things. Um, and yeah, sometimes people need a babysitter, but you kind of know how to treat someone. Um, I don't want to give too detailed examples about drunken excursions and things with friends, but I went out once with some friends. Say for an example, you know, it was a nice night. This is a long time ago. I was stoned, and I sat there kind of in the corner for a while. And this is going to be an example of how to treat somebody. Um, you know, and then an example maybe of how not to treat somebody. But the example of how not to treat somebody never really happened. I'm just going to make it up. So basically, a version of how to treat people, something that's like relatable if you party and things. Like, I had a friend who was having a party and I was there, early and had an edible before. So by the time everybody started showing up, I was literally just couch locked in this like comfortable chair at the Hard Rock Hotel, just like chilling there, sitting there, like staring off into space and just people watching in this room. And I was on a pretty strong supplement, and I just wasn't really the best functional version of myself. Um, so we went out after that, you know. Um, I think I had a drink. I don't remember. I remember having like a vodka, like a Ciroc, like a peach Ciroc and soda or something. So that for some reason, I think I brought Ciroc with me. I think that was my gift to my friend, was the Ciroc, maybe. I don't know. This is like ages ago. So we go party. And this isn't a straight, this isn't a gay club that we're going to. It's a straight club. So, I'm wearing my normal, like, button down and shorts and sneakers and whatever. And they don't let me in because I'm wearing shorts. And I've told this story before about my friend being able to go in because she had her shorts, but she had, like, girl booty shorts, like, kind of feminine booty shorts. And so it's kind of like, of course they're going to let her in, but they told me, like, no shorts. And so I'm kind of like, that's kind of already a conflicting weird thing, right? It's like, we're both females. They let her in with shorts. They don't let me in with shorts. And I'm just like, what? Like, it's kind of like, I don't know, were they going by, like, what you look like or your attire? Like, whatever your presentation kind of seems like you might be trying to come across as, you have to follow that dress code. Like, I don't understand that dress code if you're just looking at shorts and women. Guys aren't allowed to wear shorts, but I'm not a guy, so it's like, whatever. Anyways, I had chinos in the car, luckily, and I went to the car, changed into my chinos, went back to the club, and we get in, we're drinking, I'm drunk, we go, but I start sobering up, because I'm like, okay, my friend told me I could crash at the hotel, so we go back to the hotel, and there's a bunch of people, there's like queer people, straight people, all kinds of people. By that point, though, my friend is pretty plastered, and I don't know all these people that my friend is around. The only person I know there is that friend, and whose birthday it was. And so I was like, I think one of the other friends that had to leave was just me and her and him were hanging out, and he had to leave, I think, and he was just like, just make sure you keep an eye on her. And I think she kind of said that back to me, just like, hey, just like, make sure things are cool like while I'm sleeping, because it was like a one bed, one couch room, and the couch I think had a pull out sofa or something. So there was a couple that slept on the couch, and me and her, my friend, just kind of like shared the bed. And then I remember just being like, okay, I'm gonna wait till she falls asleep. Well, before that there was a lot of sickness and vomiting on her end, and so I was taking care of her, making sure that, she wasn't too uncomfortable, or, do you need a Gatorade, or what do you need, kind of thing, like water, like is there anything you need? And so I was like taking care of her, and then, we're in this room with a bunch of people that are drunk and on some other stuff at the same time, and we're kind of just there. I'm not sober because I'd been under the influence of a heavy edible before that, and then before like after that I was drinking, so like I had a lot in my system, but I did have a high tolerance back then too, and I was used to going out and just like doing these kinds of things, and so it wasn't like I was able to kind of like handle myself back then, like this was like a regular party kind of night for me. It wasn't something that didn't normally happen. But the only thing that was out of the norm was the people I was around. It was a room full of people, and it's like, I'm not just going to leave my female friend out on a bed with a room full of people. It's like, people that I don't even know, and just be like, I'm gonna peace out and go home or whatever, like I didn't do that. And so, she lets me crash there. And I just kind of positioned myself so that like, I'm just making sure that like, if she were to like, I was concerned that she was, how people sleep on their back, and then it's not good if somebody's vomiting or has been vomiting. You don't really want them sleeping on their back, because, people can not live that way. And so I was like, okay, like I'm probably not going to be able to stay awake all night, but she wasn't like actively vomiting, but I was still like, okay, just as a precaution, first make sure that, sorry, there's kids yelling because they're just walking out of school. There were, yeah, like, I was going to wait for her to fall asleep and then just fall asleep after, but I kind of just positioned my arm in a way so that like, if she were to roll over, because she was sleeping like on her side, and like if she were to roll over, if I were sleeping, it would like move my arm. And so I kind of like put my arm in a way that like, if she does roll over on her back, then I'll feel it, so I just kind of fell asleep like that. And I was like, that's the best as I can do, because like it was late. Like, I don't even know. I feel like this was like 3 a.m. I don't know. But we had to check out by the normal time. And then, the next morning, I'm like, I'm up early. And I'm like, I can't just go through like a whole day. I was asking her, how are you getting home? And like, I had my car still at the lot there. And then I was also asking her kind of like, okay, like, so there's a couple that slept on the couch. So me, her, and that couple cleaned up the whole room pretty much. There was stuff crushed in the carpet and burn marks on the bar. Like, people had burned the people had burned in the car. They'd made burn marks. So they burned what's it called? They burned like, I don't know, they were like smoking something that I'm not gonna say, and then they basically burned parts of the hotel bar in the room, and so she got charged for that. I think she lost the deposit, unfortunately, but I was like, let's try our best to make it look as clean as possible, because we had like an hour or so. So I went and I got Subway. I brought back the Subway for both of us. I didn't know that she wasn't really into Subway, but I was like, whatever, like, I'm not just gonna like leave you with no breakfast kind of thing, because I think the hotel had breakfast, but we slept past, and then we had to check out, and so basically I had her breakfast for her, and then I drove her home. We stopped somewhere. I think I got food again, maybe. I can't remember. Um, and I stayed for a while. I think I took a shower at her place, and then I think we hung out like a little while. And then I think I went home. I don't know. I think I had plans. I can't remember what the heck I did. But I feel like I went out again that night. Because I remember being like, I need to get home and like put my stuff, put like I needed my car to be back home because I had to Uber somewhere else. And I feel like I met her later on that night with some other friends or something. I can't remember. But basically the whole point is, that's an example of like, taking care of somebody when it's like, okay, like I didn't expect my night to go like that. Like I was just there for the party. I didn't know that I was going to be like the main person babysitting the birthday person, but I also didn't mind, and I was like, okay, this is fine. And like I don't really mind having that role, like it's something I'm kind of like good at. And so I was like, cool. But when you think about it, it's like when it comes to those situations, it's like there's definitely a um a dynamic that happens where it's like, it's good to be kind. You got to be kind to one another. You got to be trustworthy. You're not gonna let anybody, you know, sleep in your bed or sleep over at your place or use your shower or whatever, or even introduce them to your friends and stuff. You're not gonna let just anybody in your life doing all those kinds of things. Like if you think of like the level that it takes for people to kind of be able to do that kind of stuff, and then and this isn't even an example where it was like any kind of like no hookup, nothing. It's just like friends, we're friends. And that's fine, like things don't need to be more. But I mean, like even treating yourself like that is like, like what do you need? Like if you're feeling ill or sick or something, like what do you kind of need to get yourself? Like what do you need to kind of do? Like if you need some extra support on something unexpectedly, even just like reaching out, you know, you can even support yourself on stuff, which is kind of weird to say, but it's like you can. You don't always have to seek support externally. You can internally support yourself too. And just practicing that kind of thing of like, just taking a lot of good care of your own self, like on purpose, to just kind of pamper yourself or give yourself what you need. That's something you can do. And it's Valentine's Day, and you can do that for yourself. You don't really need another person to do it. And you can genuinely take care of yourself. And that can go a long way. It doesn't have to be like, oh, this is the day that I'm not with anybody and so I have to stay home or whatever. Like you can still, be nice to yourself, even for free. Like you don't have to even go out, and like buy things or whatever. You don't have to go to like some kind of salon or spa or something like that to be pampered. Like you can even just do it at home, like what do you want to watch, what do you want to eat, like just paying attention to yourself. And it sounds weird, but when you try to separate it out as like two separate people, it's kind of easier to see like oh, if I had somebody in my ear all day just like telling me all the negative possibilities of how things, whatever plan I have in mind, isn't going to work and it's not going to go good, and like you're making a mistake, or like whatever it is that's like in your head, like, oh, I did this thing, I should think about it even if it was 15 years ago, I'm still regretting it, like things like that, where it's like, sometimes it's not doing anybody a favor. You're not doing yourself a favor. And, you don't want to get too in the habit of kind of bogging yourself down. And Valentine's Day is kind of a good day to have a reminder of how we treat our own selves. There is a saying that somebody challenged recently, when I heard them mentioning it, mentioning the challenge that they have for. So I think the saying was, you don't, you don't, um, you can't love someone else until you love yourself, or something like that. And then somebody else was saying you definitely can love someone else without first learning how to love yourself, or something like that. Like, I don't know. But also I think a lot of us don't learn how to love ourselves. Like, we're taught, like, okay, like, find a partner, find a person, to be with. But we might not know how to, like, love ourselves, connect with ourselves. I mean, it sounds weird. It sounds like some weird thing. And I know people, there's always a stigma of, mental health still unfortunately has a lot of stigma. And anytime you start, like, talking about people talking or people thinking about some other kind of thing that's not really in the room, actually, then, people start getting a little worried. Like, it's like, if I can't see it or whatever, like, why am I gonna acknowledge some other thing? But, it is kind of interesting too, like in the old sitcoms, how they used to have the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other. It's kind of like, I mean, that's kind of not the same exact thing, but it's like you can have like a nice version of yourself, and the side of yourself that's just like, oh my gosh, like, go away, But when you think of it, it's like even our internal, like, self-talk, like, if it was another separate person who was sitting, maybe you're in the car, just chilling in the car, or chilling out on your patio with two chairs, and you're sitting in one chair, and this person is sitting in the chair next to you, and they're just like, you're not even talking, and they're just sitting there like, hey, that thing that you're going to try for work tomorrow, it's not going to work. The presentation you have to give, man, you better be careful, because, that other jerk coworker always asks really hard questions, and they're going to get under your skin. And, like, yeah, people think you're inadequate. They might think you're inadequate. Remember when you screwed up last time? It's like when you, I mean, I've not had a specific situation like that I'm even thinking of, but it's like, it is almost like creepy to think, that if, I could see myself saying stuff like that, like, I don't, have a specific issue like that going on right now, but because I just didn't want to use like a really actual personal example, but I can see how easily people would be like talking like that and saying things like, oh, like this, like, oh, like, whatever the negative self-talk is that a person tells themselves. I mean, when you think of it that way, of like two different people sitting next to each other, and one person is just yammering on and on and on about all the negative possibilities of whatever's about to come up, or all the reasons why you're mad at some other, like, I'm not saying like you can't have emotions, you can't be mad or sad or whatever, but, or anxious or whatever it may be, like, you can worry and all that, but when you just think about, like, sometimes it's like too far. Like, I think there is a point where it's like, okay, we can stop this now. It's like, okay, I get it. We can stop this now. This isn't really like a healthy way to be like spending my whole night thinking about this thing, and sometimes even just saying something as simple as that to our own self can be, helpful. And I think there was this other skill where somebody said, just like scream at yourself and like stop, but it's kind of like, that seems a little aggressive. Like, some people maybe respond well to that, and that might be helpful. Maybe other people, you might want to consider something a little with a milder touch to it, for your own self. Like you might not feel, um, I don't know, just like for your own self. Um, I kind of wonder, um, so, um, like that's one example is the self talk. I mean, definitely the things you do for yourself, like getting rest, you know, um, like would you run if you had like a somebody working for you that did the same exact thing as you, but some reason you're in charge of them? Um, would you make them overwork and overdo it and overstress them about things? I mean, like I don't think most of us would, you know. Um, and so I think it is good to be like kind to ourselves. Um, but learning how to do it is a whole different thing. Like it really takes practice. I have to practice it all the time, and practice just kind of like, you know, remembering, like basically just trying to remember to do something that helps and works, um, is hard enough to do. It's like just trying to think about what it is that I want to do. Sometimes that's really, really hard. You know, it's like, okay, how do I want to address this? Or even getting to the point where I'm like, oh, I need to like do something, you know, not just like keep thinking about the same annoying thing that's like stressing me out. Like I need to actually think about it in another way, and you know, sometimes it can help to just like talk myself through things, but I think it does really help to kind of have days like Valentine's Day to kind of like teach yourself how to be nice to yourself, or remind yourself how to be nice to yourself, or just take like a special amount of time, even if you are dating somebody or married or in a long-term relationship, you know, like you can still do things for yourself. Like it doesn't mean like just because you're with somebody now you don't have to do that. But for the people who aren't with anybody anyways, you can you can do that for yourself, and it is very possible to do. It's hard to do sometimes, um, but it's very um, um, mm, like it's rewarding. It's helpful. I'd say yeah, mostly it's helpful, but because yeah, you can do it more days than just Valentine's Day, but I think Valentine's Day is a good day to use as a reminder. Kind of like, I mean, I know there's conflict about like the traditional Thanksgiving and everything, but even having like days of gratitude, you know, for what we're thankful about and things like that, that can be really helpful too. Um, so yeah. Um, that's it for now. Hopefully everybody has a good Valentine's Day, and you can find a way to treat yourself nicely, um, and have a good time with it, and not get too down if you're not sharing Valentine's Day with another individual, and just doing something that's helpful and beneficial for yourself. Uh, you'll probably be able to feel pretty well doing that.